This is an on-air mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We are. I'm ready.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen to order on January 10th, 2019 at 6:01 p.m. First order of business to approve the December 27th, 2018 minute meetings.
So
We
moved.
can't.
Why can't we? You weren't
We
here?
only,
weren't
I wasn't here.
Oh,
Oh, that's right.
okay. We will
Table
not.
that.
We'll do that.
Okay, sorry.
Item number 3 is the public forum. Anyone who wishes to address the board this evening with any issues that are not on the agenda? Seeing none. We have our annual audit presentation by Hank Farah of Runyon, Kernston, and Olette.
Willett.
Willette.
Hello, everyone. To let you know right off the bat, I don't have much exciting news for you today, which is exactly what you would want me to say.
It's a good thing.
If I said I had some exciting news, we'd be going over a lot of bad things, since auditors only tell you bad news. We never tell you, in writing at least, how well you did. I'm here to tell you that the audit went very, very well this year. Issued that set of the CAFR, which is a comprehensive annual financial report. We believe that we've fulfilled all of the requirements to get another CAFR certificate for fiscal year 18.
Great.
And overall, I'm going to go through the graph presentation. I passed them out, and it's also up on the TV as well. I'm going to point you to a couple changes that we made in the financial statements this year. Also, when I'm going through the graphs, we changed it around because of the way TRIO works, and we think what we changed in the financial statements is going to make things even a little bit easier on Jen when she goes and prepares those financial statements at year end. I want to talk about some of those audit results. Overall, your financial statement opinion was unmodified. That's what you're looking for. That's a clean opinion. That means everything is fairly stated in all material respects. We also issue other reports. There's reports required by government auditing standards. And this is where we take a look at your internal control over financial reporting and let you know if there's any sort of material weaknesses or significant deficiencies within that internal control structure. Happy to say, no material weaknesses nor significant deficiencies. So you got a clean government auditing standards report. This year, a single audit was required, and a single audit is when you expend more than $750,000 of federal expenditures during the year. And what happened is you used Maine Bond Bank to fund a sewer project, and it was made up of federal funds for the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. So we tested that program, and everything was in order. There were no findings. So overall, you got a clean report for your internal control over financial reporting, and also a clean report on your single audit over that major federal program. We'll jump into some of the financial aspects. Fund balance is usually what everybody wants to talk about. You see you have a 5-year comparison there. 2018, your fund balance increased a little over 320 some odd thousand in the current year to a total fund balance of $4.4 million. If you take a look at pages 48 and 49 in your financial statements, you will see a breakdown of those committed and assigned fund balances. You can see this fund balance is broken into 4 different sections. There's non-spendable, which is anything, you have some inventory, so it's non-spendable. And then there's committed and assigned. Assigned is made up of what you budgeted to use.
Excuse me, could I ask a question?
Yes, you
At that
can.
point, I'm looking at it because it shows non-spendable as purple. Is this the faint line between
Right.
the big blue and the?
I
Dark
think
blue?
it's actually at the very top, and it's
Is
because
that
it's
the
only,
top?
if you take a look at that axis on the left, you're talking in, millions and half millions, and it's only $5,212
It's
bucks.
thicker than the lead pencil. Yeah. Oh,
Might have to
okay.
get a magnifying
No, I just
glass
want
to
to make
see that
sure it
line.
was somewhere I didn't find it.
No, it's
Okay.
such a small number, it barely shows up there.
Okay.
But there's committed balances is what you're carrying forward, and the assigned fund balance, the assigned fund balance includes what you budgeted to use in the next fiscal year, which I believe was $225,000 to use in FY19 to balance the budget, and it includes encumbrances. You can see that there's been some changes. You carried forward a little bit more in the committed section, and then the assigned went down because there's just less encumbrances at year end than there were in the prior year. Unassigned overall increased around $335,000, which basically equals your total increase in your fund balance from the prior year. So let's talk about why that fund balance increased. General fund revenues, looking at the budget to actual. There's a lot more detail in the financial statements on pages 64 and 65, which is Exhibit A2. It breaks down all of the categories into a lot more detail. I'll talk about some of the larger variances. Excise tax over budget, just more residents purchasing new vehicles. I think we're seeing this across the state where excise tax has been on the rise in the last couple years. Intergovernmental revenues was under budget slightly. Just didn't receive all the anticipated MDOT money. You'll probably get the rest of that in FY19 for the MDOT project, which is Maine Department of Transportation. License and permits came in slightly under what was budgeted, just fewer building permits than you anticipated, and also plumbing fees also came in under. Those kind of go hand in hand. And interest is where you really made out higher interest rate on your sweep accounts. I think you guys negotiated a great rate, and what did you get, 2%, Jen? It was something good. So you got very high percentage. I was kind of seeing if I could piggyback and get my bank accounts on that. But overall, it came in 76,000 above what you originally anticipated, so you got great return on there. Two numbers at the bottom I want to point out. The utilization of prior year surplus was what you budgeted to use, and then utilization of carry forward balances, which were encumbrances from the prior year. If you were the perfect budgeters and everything came in on the money, all your revenues, all your expenditures, your fund balance would have been expected to go down by $440,000 because that would have been your budget hole. The reason it didn't go down and went up is because you could see that positive variance of your total revenues of around $217,000 collected more than was anticipated. And then we go onto the expenditure side on the next page, you'll see you had savings on expenditures of around $647,000. So that's what makes up that difference and why your fund balance didn't go down even though you budgeted to do so. More detail in the financial statements on these categories is on pages 66 to 69 in the financial statements. A couple of the larger variances here. Savings in general government, less legal fees than you originally anticipated. And this also includes your budgeted overlay and the contingency lines. So those amounts are in that general government section. Under public safety, savings and benefits and less OT for police and less use of on-call firefighters during the year. Debt service came in under budget due to just timings of the loan payment. The new loan came in and the payments weren't due in this fiscal year. The first payments were due in FY19. I believe those amounts were carried forward within that committed fund balance line. And then capital improvements, usually any carried forward from the next year. Now, one thing I want to say is this is where we made some changes within your financial statements. Usually, all of your capital projects were expended through the general fund. And a lot of times it would make your budget to actual look a little out of place because a lot of times with capital projects, it isn't a one-year thing. It may span 2-3 fiscal years. And you guys usually budget money for road improvements or whatnot. So what we did now is, and you're going to see it more clearly on a pie chart that I'm going to show later on in this presentation, is instead of showing all the capital expenditures within your general fund, they're now in capital project funds, which are in a different place in your financial statements. And anything you budgeted to use out of the general fund is shown as a transfer out now. So what you're going to see is your transfer outs are going to be a lot higher, and your capital spending in general fund is going to look a lot lower this year. But I assure you those projects are still going on, and I will point you to the direction of where that's at in your financial statements now. So, and it's a lot easier with the accounting system to track these things this way. Next one, unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. A lot of people, an easy way to look at is if your fund balance is appropriate. Your policy is to maintain an unassigned fund balance in the general fund, a minimum of 2 months of general fund expenditures, which is 18%. You can see that you dip below that in 2017 and 2016, but you are back up above the minimum for 2018. So you're sitting there at 18.25% at the end of the year, which is more in line with where you want to be with your fund balance policy. The next one's just revenue distribution. We usually show this one. You guys don't receive much state monies from the state of Maine. So you can see that your property taxes and excise taxes combined make up almost I think it's 93.5% of all your general fund revenues are basically coming from local taxes. You can see intergovernmental is just slightly under 2%. I think a lot of times this will vary up and down slightly, whether you have, you got some of that Maine Department of Transportation money, but you don't really get much in the state revenue sharing line. So really not much of a shift in the, from the past. You can see your property taxes between 2014 to 2018 has increased a little over 0.25% there. So kind of on line with how it's been for the last 5 years. Now the next two graphs kind of go hand in hand. You can kind of open it up and look, and this is really a comparison between 2018 and 2017. And this is where I was telling you where if you take a look at your capital improvement expenditures in 17, it made up around almost 10.5% of your expenditures in the general fund. And now you're down to 1.5%. And I want to assure you that you did not cut out all capital spending during the year. Right now, all your capital projects are seen over, I believe it's Exhibit D2 in the financial statements. And you can see where all the monies that are transferred out of the general fund are going into those capital project funds and being spent over the course of time. And the same thing where transfers out, you could see prior year transfers out was only 2%, and now it's up to almost 7%. So that was just a change of how your capital expenditures are being shown for what you budgeted versus when they're actually being spent when the projects are being done. What I do want to point out is that education, the piece of pie for education went up almost 4%. Between
Yes, we can
17
see
and
that.
18.
No, we're well aware of that.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Thank
I
you.
mean, that was around 885,000 increase between one year and the next.
There
I'm
wasn't
guessing,
a- there
guessing
wasn't
the high
We don't
school.
have any control over that.
Yeah.
I know, you're
Yeah.
part of the RSU,
Yeah, that's it's the debt.
right, for the new high
It's
school.
ramping up because it's gonna be high, and then it starts to slowly.
Don't worry,
Taper
they'll
off.
spend that too.
Yeah,
But that was one of the biggest changes in here that's just from the actual spending. I mean, general government was up slightly as well, just 0.5%, but that was the big one I wanted to point out. Another thing in the capital improvements section, last year, part of that, that was in capital improvements was kind of in this other that you budgeted for was, you had a lot of legal expenses in the prior year and that you didn't have in the current year. I think, the line was around 268,000, in the prior year that you didn't incur this year. So there was that's part of that other decrease in that even though it wasn't capital, it was kind of lumped into that area. So, but you didn't have that in the current year. And so, again, and another example, you know, it showed in the prior year, in the prior year, spent around 710,000 in road improvements, which was part of that big capital line. And this year, you know, where it's not shown in the general fund, you spent around 710,000 on road improvements. So you budgeted to use 550, that got pushed over to that capital project fund. You spent around 700,000 on those road improvements. But again, that's on Exhibit D2 in the financial statements, if you want to take a peruse through there to see what capital project funds are going on and where they stand and how much money's left in those at the end of the year. Other than that, that's all I got to report. I want to thank Jen for being so well prepared. She gets us in and out. She's super helpful. She pretty much drops everything when we show up, and that makes our life a lot easier. Not everybody is like that when you show up for an audit and so helpful. So thanks to Jen and her staff for being ready and prepared for us. She's the reason why you get clean audit opinions. It's not like I show up and decide whether it's clean or not. It's their hard work that gets you a clean opinion. I think we had 3 whole journal entries. So I go to places where we do 20 to 30. So, you know, a clean opinion, well prepared, makes the audit easier for everyone. We get you this very large document, 109 pages, and you guys are the first CAFR that gets issued out of RKO. We do about 11 per year for this large report. You guys are the first ones out because you're that prepared and ready to roll. So I want to thank Jen and staff for being so ready and making my life a little bit easier there. So,
great, thank you,
Yep,
Jen.
thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
so, any questions about the audit? Anything that I presented financially?
I think it was very well laid out as always and easy to follow along.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you,
All right, thank you for having
very
me.
good,
Right.
that's
Thank you for
good.
coming by.
I'll stick around for Jen's part too.
Okay. Number 5, authorize transfer of funds from the general fund to the capital funds, general capital improvement account. Jen? Oh, you're already
Hi
there.
there. Yeah. First off, thanks, Hank. I really appreciate all the help and hard work you guys give us, too. It's a give and take, and definitely shows that we're a good team. Thank you. All right, so now, after Hank has talked about how we made out at the end of the year, and that we made it over the 18%, I propose that you would authorize the transfer of $49,200.42 to the Capital Projects Fund, General Capital Improvements Account, in accordance with our fund balance policy.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Motion passes.
Great.
So Jen,
Thank
could you just tell them what the balance will be in that account now?
Oh, yes. The new balance after we add that in is going,
I think it's about 380.
there it is. It's going to be $386,093. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Great.
Item number 6, we need to set the number of shellfish licenses, license fees, and the length of the season. Looking at this, I don't see that there were any changes from last year. So we will set the recreational licenses at 75 recreational resident, 8 non-resident recreation, 1 warden recreation, 2 commercial licenses for residents. Oh, okay. And 0 daily licenses, and somewhere on here it should, I don't have the fees.
We didn't talk about the fees. The
Okay.
fees would be the same.
Okay, and the fees are the same as last year, whatever that
And
was.
we're doing the same schedule.
Okay. The
April-
flats will be open from April 15th to October 15th. Digging will only be allowed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Rec diggers can only take 1 peck a week, and commercials 2 pecks a day.
Yeah, so same old, same old.
Same old, same old. Do I have a
Yeah.
motion?
Motion to accept?
I second.
All in favor? Okay, motion
Okay.
passes.
That's
Number
fine.
7,
Your turn.
presentation by Woodward and Curran and Mike Claus, Director of Public Works, regarding the Ocean Avenue seawall project.
Hi, Mike Claus, Public Works, and we got Megan McDevitt from Woodard and Curran here tonight. Last year, we awarded the engineering contract for the Ocean Avenue seawall replacement to Woodard and Curran, and they've been working away diligently on it, and we'd like to go out to bid next week, so I wanted Megan to come and give you guys an update on what we're doing.
Okay.
So she's got a short presentation, and I'll play Jen over here and
Okay.
Can you give Mike a second, get it set up? Wonderful. As Mike said, my name is Megan McDevitt. I am a project manager with Woodard and Curran, and we have been working closely with Mike over about the last 4 months, putting together this design and getting ready to put this project out to bid, hopefully here in the next week or so. To start with this, I want to start with giving you guys a little context, and if we go to the first slide, I'll just show you some pictures of the existing seawall that we're talking about replacing. This wall is along Ocean Ave. It's an existing, very old, cast-in-place concrete wall, and it has concrete pillars and steel rails that make the guardrail system that comes above the top of the wall. So where is this wall located? Well, if we go to the next slide, this wall is located so imagine directionally, this map is actually turned 90 degrees. This wall is located just south of the Nonantum Resort, and it travels all the way down to the bridge just south of the Kennebunkport River Club. It's approximately 640 feet in length. And that is our project area, from the Nonantum to the bridge just south of the River Club. So what are we proposing to replace this wall? We are not proposing to replace it with another cast-in-place concrete wall. What we're looking to do is replace this wall with what we call a precast modular block system. And there's a couple reasons why we're proposing to do this. One is that it allows for faster construction. These blocks are fabricated at a precast manufacturing plant, and they can be fabricated before the contractor actually mobilizes on site. And then they're constructed almost like a Lego system. You construct the first row, then you put the next row on top of it. They've got interlocking blocks, and that's where they get their strength from. So it's going to allow for faster construction. Ocean Ave is a very busy place, and we don't want to be doing construction there during your tourist time, so we have a very limited amount of time when we can do construction. You know, if we don't start till later in the year, we have a shorter construction window. So we're looking to use a product that allows us to get in and out of there as quick as possible. The other advantage of this system is that it can be expanded and we can add to it. So say sometime very long in the future, when hopefully none of us are here anymore or working on it, if there is a desire to, let's say, raise Ocean Ave because of seawall or sea level rise, things like that, the top block of this wall can be taken off and additional intermediate blocks can be added back on. So that way you don't have to remove the whole wall and start from scratch again. So it provides some functionality, and it can be retrofitted to increase in height. Yes?
Is the foundation the same, or do you rebuild the foundation?
Nope, you don't have to rebuild the foundation. What it is when we spec this product, we tell the manufacturer it may be X tall, but you need to design a foundation so it could, in the future, be another 4 feet or something.
Right.
1 block height more.
But the existing foundation can be reused.
It will have its own new foundation. So the existing foundation is going to stay in place, and they will put the first block, the bottom block is a bigger block.
Right.
It tends to be deeper, and that will just set on. And typically, they just have to set a nice crushed stone level pad, and that's all they use for their foundation.
Okay.
So this is some renderings we've developed, and we've shared with the town to kind of show what's going on. The new wall is actually going to come up a little higher than the existing wall. And it is going to have an architectural finish on the side. That's something that the precasters will actually put into the wall at the plant. So it won't look just like a solid face concrete wall. It will have some sort of stone or decorative finish. So if we go to the next slide, the next rendering, you can kind of see in this angle how that wall comes up a little higher. We've done this for a few reasons. We've done this to provide kind of a pseudo vehicle barrier, guardrail barrier on the back side of the wall. We had evaluated a bunch of options as to whether we should put guardrail between the street and the sidewalk to provide some vehicle protection, but it just didn't make sense based on the limited space, so we used the wall. The other reason we did this as the street grade varies, and by using the wall height, setting the wall height a little higher, it allows us to absorb that varying grade on the face of the wall. So that way we can have a standard curb height on the road, we can have our standard cross slopes on the sidewalk that we need to meet ADA requirements, and then any changes in elevation will be made up on the face of the wall. And you will carry a nice consistent wall all the way across the top. And then we've provided a little pedestrian rail on the top so that we get up to our 42-inch height max. That is the height to prevent pedestrian fall. Right now we show that railing, it looks a little small. We've had some feedback, and we actually are working on beefing that up, and we're planning on that to be a little beefier in the actual bidding documents that go out. And we're working on providing the town an updating rendering that reflects that. So if we go to the next one, this is the schedule we're looking at. Right now we're hoping to we're planning to put this project out to bid next week. I believe January 17th is Thursday of next week. Doing a 3-week bidding period. We'd open bids on February 7th. We understand that you guys have a selectmen meeting on the 14th, so that's part of the reason we want to open bids by then, so that we can come back with a bid recommendation on that day. And then at that meeting, if it is decided to award the project, then we would get the contractor under contract, and they would start what is called shop drawing process, where they actually design the wall. There's nobody on site. They're doing this back at their shop. We review it, make sure it meets all the specs, and then they would start fabricating the wall. So from March to August, they're working back at the precast plant, getting all the pieces ready. After Labor Day is when they would mobilize on site and actually begin construction. What we're planning right now is to allow them to do one-way traffic, so they're gonna detour and make one-way traffic on Ocean Ave southbound only. They'll also have to provide safe pedestrian access, so that stays continuous on Ocean Ave through the entire duration of construction. Then they will come in, get the wall constructed, backfill, recreate the sidewalk, all new curbing, things like that, and they should be out of there by the end of November. So that's what we're targeting. So it should be about a 3-month process to get that all done. And that's really the summary. Is there any questions I can answer at this time?
No, I think you were very thorough. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Now, is there,
Simple question. You gotta go up there.
Is the sidewalk?
You gotta go up there.
I'm sorry?
Or you can stand here and ask your
No,
question.
they should go to the.
Oh,
No?
no, I guess you better go up there.
I think I can answer your question. The sidewalk
No, I
is,
have to ask it officially. I wanted to know what the deal was gonna be with the sidewalk. Is the sidewalk going to be resurfaced as a part of this project or not? Or is it a separate entity?
yes, so in order to construct the wall, in order to remove the old wall and construct the new wall, we are actually gonna have to disturb and excavate the sidewalk. So one of the requirements the contractor will have is to rebuild a new sidewalk with new curb, new bituminous pavement as part of the project.
So just to emphasize, the construction project will take place during September, October, and November. And that is a busy tourist time for us, especially with buses. I've made the Chamber of Commerce aware of that. So we'll work with them and others, but it will mean limited traffic flow this fall. But the issue is we do have to get to the pavement plants before they close. And we are really pushing that window at the end of November.
and that's just before Prelude.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
But I thought you'd be happy we'd be done by Prelude.
Yeah. I hope you can guarantee that.
I don't have any more.
Is there any reason why you wouldn't build, well, I know you said you're building the wall higher. One of the reasons we're doing all this is because we get water in the road around high tides. If you built the wall a little bit higher, is that gonna matter, or, I don't know.
There's openings
Go
in the
around
wall
the-
around the River Club.
go
It would just
around each
go
It's
right
just
in.
gonna come in
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, okay, never
I had the
mind.
same thought, Sheila, when I looked at the design. I was like,
Yeah.
that's not gonna work.
Does the wall itself let water pass through slowly? You know what I mean? Are there crevices, cracks that water would conceivably go through the wall?
In those
Yes, yes, because they're joints, they're
That's what
just
I
cold
thought,
joints
yeah.
that water can, over time will get, if water got over it, it would then release back through.
Are there drains back through it from, say, the sidewalk level to the ocean, to the river?
There are no drains back through at the sidewalk level. The sidewalks will be pitched to drain to the road.
Okay.
And then there will be catch basins all along the gutter line, which is the base of the curb.
Right.
So all the water is meant to sheet away from the wall down to the road, where it will be collected by the storm drain system.
Good.
Very good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you gonna be directing traffic?
She's gonna be running the
No,
project.
I'm sure she's not gonna wanna be down there.
That's my point.
Yeah. We're gonna have you do it, Sheila.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
All right, number 8, Chems to introduce their new subscription service. Jim, would you like to speak to that?
I have some handouts, so might just take a couple of minutes
Thank you.
to get these out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am Jim Stockman. I am president of Chems. And as you all know, Chems is our local nonprofit ambulance service here in town. And one of the issues that we have currently is how to get money and to continue to fund our service. We are a completely paid service now. The only thing that's volunteer is our board. So
Really?
we've come up with this new idea, and it just happens to coincide with our 40th anniversary. It was in May of 1979 that the town voters approved an agreement to have KEMS provide ambulance service. So the concept of a subscription service is that you will apply, we have different rates, and on panel number 3 of the presentation, you can see what the service will cost. The service will go from January through December of each calendar year. The reason for the service is because we wanted to offer something to the people of Kennebunkport that would help them save money. So for the subscription service, you would pay in, for example, a family of 2 would pay in $300 for the year. And what you would get for that is explained on panel 5 and 6. But on panel 4 is an explanation of what it costs when somebody calls 911 and an ambulance shows up. And I have a typical example of, might be $2,000 per ambulance call. $1,200 for the advanced life support, $19 a mile, arbitrary 8 miles from here to a Biddeford hospital, and drugs and other charges, and it could equal $2,000. If one was a senior citizen, $666 might be paid by government programs. That is a variable that is changing all the time. Another $666 might be paid by their private insurance. And that last out-of-pocket expense is paid by the patient. And so the concept of a subscription service is that you pay for something up front, and if you need the ambulance, we waive that out-of-pocket expense. So a person who needs the ambulance doesn't have to worry about that additional cost, which is usually the last thing you're thinking about if you need an ambulance. A typical program here in Maine for senior citizens might be they'll pick up all of the ambulance costs but $250. So here again, if you have one, that's easy. But many people have multiple ambulance calls in a particular year. Yeah. So for them, this is a true bargain. What does KEMS get? KEMS gets some money up front so we can better plan our fiscal year. And we're going to introduce this. We have letters going out sometime this month. And there is a copy in the material that I gave, the actual application of what it looks like that we're going to be sending out. And so my board thought that it would be appropriate that we come to you people first to present it and to just explain to you what we are doing. I'm open to questions.
Have you put feelers out asking some of the residents how they will accept this? I mean, it's not insignificant.
It is not insignificant. One of the things that we're trying to do at KEMS is, first of all, to make sure that our rates are not the highest in York County and not the lowest, that we're in right there. We also try to make sure that we pay our per diem medical people, our drivers, our EMTs. Again, not the top, but we want to be able to attract the best talent for our 24/7 coverage. The only other town in York County that has this is, I believe, Wells, and they've had it for about 20 years. So we have not done a specific survey in town to see. So when we send this out, we have expectations. We don't expect a great deal the first year, but we had to start somewhere.
So if people don't prescribe, then if they get an ambulance, they wind up having to pay whatever the cost is.
That is.
Only the ones who take, it's like an insurance policy, almost.
It is.
Yeah.
It is,
So-
without a doubt, almost like an insurance policy,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And if you were not a senior citizen and you had a family of 4 or 5, and you needed the ambulance twice a year, that would be worth it. If you were a seasonal resident, we have a provision here, smaller amount, in order to accommodate somebody who might be here only for the summer.
But it's also a way for the residents to support our chems.
That is correct. It is also an additional way. This is not going to take place, it's not going to take the place of our yearly fundraising that we do in every July. And we typically get about 10% of our total operating budget from our fundraising and donations. We know that we have to be more aggressive in order to find better methods of funding chems beyond coming to you people and saying, we'd like more money. We'll be back to do that. But we're trying to look at increasing our endowment, increasing any number of ways in order to create more revenue to sustain our over $400,000 budget that we will have coming up in the next this fiscal year and the next fiscal year.
No, I think it's a great idea.
Well, I
mean,
think
it's
it would help the people at home understand better why they're asking for this.
Right.
Because as it stands now, chems is not reimbursed for all the ambulance charges.
Right.
And, how do you try to spread out the cost and cover this? And this is one option
Yeah.
to do it going forward. But because of the change in the Affordable Care Act at the national level, it's reduced the income to chems from 58% of a run to what?
33,
33%.
34%, something like
So
that.
it is something that we're having to adjust to because of what has happened at the national level. And I think the people at home need to understand why this is a timely operation, something that we're trying to do to make it viable for the chems to keep operating.
Yeah. And I think there are a lot of people in town who would like to support chems as a functioning part of our town. And this is a way for them to do it, even if, they're a healthy, run-of-the-mill family, so.
Absolutely.
But
People have accidents too.
before
And
the
they're-
accident,
Right, but point being,
Right.
it's also a way of helping out the community.
well, the demographics of the town are such that we have an aging population, and
Yeah.
things happen when you get
Yeah.
old, I've been told.
To that extent, Jim, your analysis here of the 33, and 33% roughly, deals with Medicaid, Medicare, and the like. How would that deal with private insurance, or, you know, like those of us who are, you know, have employer-based insurance? Very similar?
I'm going to say very similar, but we tried to stay out of the individual insurance that our billing company can give us some data about what Blue Cross Blue Shield or Martin's Point or whoever, in terms of what they're covering. We get that information back in terms of what Medicare, Medicaid covers, all of that. So for the private people, we've found that it seems to be somewhat very similar across the board.
My suggestion, I think, with this is, you know, I think this is a very good idea, but when I look at this as someone who's not, you know, 65 years old, I don't see that it applies. I might be confused if this just showed up in the mail, and I might say, well, this doesn't apply to me. I don't have Medicare or Medicaid or...
If you look at the application itself, it does not go into, I mean, one of the difficult things to do is how do you put together a presentation to present to people on this program? Due to the fact that 50% of our runs by CHEMS is for people over 65, about 20% is under 18. We've started to look at those demographics in terms of where do we go, how many calls do we have, how we're starting to look at how many do we go to a hospitality facility versus a resident. These are all data that we're starting to collect to better understand how to fund this service and to keep it going. People really don't know how important it is until you need it. But we have, in Cape Porpoise, 24/7, and we just went through our numbers for the calendar year of 2018. We have a 99.5% coverage with a paramedic, driver, EMT. That's incredible. We have the people, they're ready to go, they're there when you need them. And even though we're licensed at the basic level, so if for some reason our paramedic was not on, you know, just happened to not be there at that moment, that ambulance can still run. But most of our paramedics are not only basic, but they're advanced, and many of them have additional training beyond that. So we have a very highly skilled staff down there, ready to go when you need it, and you never know when that is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just because you're under 60 doesn't mean that.
No, my point, I think this is a great idea. And I just didn't want you guys to be shooting yourselves in the foot here and, you know, where people.
Making it look like.
Yeah, exactly. If you were to send this out, I would say, well, I'm not 65. This doesn't apply to me. But I don't know that you're going to send out this brochure.
No. What we're sending out is this absolute simple, sheet with one other sheet that's very simple. But what we needed to do was to come up with something for presentation for this type of situation. That's what we tried to put together.
Right.
Of course. Yeah. Well, thank you, Jim. That was very informative. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, sir. Please.
So it seems vitally important that the result of this change is not, it is at least an even money situation. It's not going to result in a decrease in revenue. And you mentioned yourself that the people for whom this is a no-brainer are the people who are having an ambulance call a month now. It's like, wow, $600 savings every no-brainer.
Yeah.
So now that's got to get picked up somewhere. I mean, it's the same thing about the mandated, I have to buy insurance. That doesn't seem to be a part of the program. I think it's important that this is sold to the public on the merits of having the benefits of having such a strong program. That this is necessary for all of us to step up. Something that said what the break-even point was would be helpful in terms of me thinking about this. How many people who don't use an ambulance this past 2 years, knock on wood, have to sign up for this to at least break even? And that type of an analysis, I think, would make it helpful to people like me say, yeah, I support this program. I'd rather go contribute to it privately like this than have an increase in my taxes, but I sure as heck don't want to lose the program.
Right.
Yeah. Good point.
I think
Yes.
that we can answer that very simply. In calendar year 2018, we had 386 ambulance calls here in town. In projecting our numbers for our current fiscal year, which will end in June, start in July, we are hoping to get about 5% of our operating. So we're hoping to maybe get $40,000 out of this in the first year. So that might be 100 people, or we just don't know, and we had to start somewhere, and so we're putting this program forward. We need everybody to help us sell it, and the advantages are that if you need the ambulance, it's a win situation.
You should come to town meeting and accept these things.
Believe me, we are putting together
Good.
all sorts of, we were here at Prelude out there. We had an exhibit out there showing what we do. This is, as I said, our 40th anniversary. We're going to be going out to the public, trying to get as many pictures and photographs and other things to celebrate the 40 years. When KEMS started, it was completely a volunteer organization. Unfortunately, over the years, it had to evolve, in which now we're a totally paid group of people.
Well, it's a professional level as well.
But the rules changed. You needed this now on the ambulance, and you needed this, and you needed this level of training, and you need this, and that's just, the bar just keeps going up.
Well, you were here also during the election day, so the people that filed through
Yes.
got to meet you and talk to you and see what you've had.
Yes, we did. That was when we were here. We were here on
Right.
Election Day. We're going to be here for town meeting because we need to get the story out, whether you donate money, whether you sign up for the subscription service. We're still going to come to the town for a yearly amount of money. We still need to depend upon revenue from services, which accounts for 30, 35, 40% by the time you actually get the money from all the different payees. And that's what we're trying to do, is to continue. And as I said, we're going to try to grow our endowment so that we can tap into that and not have to keep coming and say, please, would you help us? I thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, moving on. Number 9, approve the waste hauling permits for 2019. I believe the only change here is that we need to, if we wish to approve them,
Conditionally.
conditional upon payment from Waste Management. They filled out all the paperwork, and
Right.
I think it's just a technicality. We will get paid.
But if we say it,
Correct, correct.
then it's official. Yeah,
Do I have a motion to that effect?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Number 10, accept a donation of $1,080 to the Emergency Fuel Fund from the following local business Businesses participating in the Christmas Prelude Cookie Crawl, Breakwater Inn and Spa, Dana, Captain Fairfield Inn, Wendy Webster, Good Fine Art, Auntie's House, and the Nonantum Resort.
Thank you very much. Motion to accept?
Second?
All in favor? Yes. Number 11, accept a $581.67 donation to the Emergency Fuel Fund from the Church on the Cape.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor? Thank you very much. And accept a $100 donation to the Nurses General Account from Peter and Gretchen Graham.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
With,
Thank you.
with
much pleasure, much thank you.
gratitude, yes.
Where's Stuart when you need him?
I
Move the
know.
He's
warrant.
in Prague.
Move the warrant.
No other business.
Other business, okay.
Pat, you have anything?
Nothing, no.
Sheila?
We're taking down our decorations this weekend, hopefully, if it's not too cold. So you'll see people out and about. But we want to thank everybody for their participation in Prelude and their patience in everything that goes on during that weekend, or those 2 weekends. And we had a very successful year.
Great.
But there was plenty of people in town.
They sure were.
Lori, do you have anything?
Don't.
And I don't have anything. So, Pat?
I move for adjournment.
No, you gotta move the warrants.
I move the warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay, favor.
Approved.
Go.
Now I move for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
There.
Meeting adjourned.